Welcome to my tutorial for Vanquish on God Hard mode. Yeah, and this is going to be, I'm going to try to cover in detail everything that I do to beat this mode. And I'm going to try to do the commentary within a few days of when I actually complete the segments. Unlike my tutorial for God Hand on the hardest setting, I did that probably like a year later or something like that, so it wasn't all fresh in my head. So this time I decided I would, since I plan on completing this game, I decided to do it while it's current. To unlock God Hard difficulty, if you don't want to play through normal to unlock it, just rotate the right analog stick 20 times in either direction and you'll get it. Also, the weapons I'm going to recommend having are the laser cannon and the anti-armor pistol. The shotgun is optional, but I recommend having those three weapons in your loadout for this for these upcoming parts. The way you do that, there's a weapon rack at this beginning section here. And if you grab the weapons you want, you can even die, and it'll always keep your loadout. So you can grab whatever weapons you want, die, and you'll have those weapons in your loadout when you respawn. So that's a very useful tip for the entire game. But yeah, I recommend that loadout of weapons for the strategies that I'm going to be using. I'm just going to be detailing the strategies that I use to beat the game. That's really all this is going to be. If I am aware of some other strategies, I will try to mention or detail those as well, but I'm mostly just going to be covering what I did. It's really just my playthrough of the game. You know, this is my second playthrough through God Hard mode. I beat it about 11 years ago. And everything else is really basically nothing compared to what you're going to face on the final bosses. Look at it as the game starts when you get to the last bosses. As far as the difficulty goes, there's going to be there's maybe 3 or 4 very hard parts, but even those pale in comparison to what happens when you get to the final bosses. When I got to the final bosses, I believe a rough estimate, it probably took me anywhere from 10 to 20 hours just to beat that first checkpoint on the final bosses. And of course, once you beat that first checkpoint, the rest is not that hard, but it's that first checkpoint that was a brick wall. I actually took 2 months off from the game and went back to it 2 months later to beat that part because it was just, I wasn't expecting that kind of spike in difficulty. It was definitely shocking. So keep that in mind. Don't get too excited as you approach the end of the game. Just keep in mind that the real challenge is going to begin when you get to those final bosses. Don't underplay that. Otherwise, you're probably going to get burned out when you get there and realize that it's so fucking hard. Most players didn't complete the game on God Hard mode because when I looked on the leaderboards back then, there was only about 80 or 90 people that had actually completed that final act, that part of the final act where the game ends. Whereas you had thousands and thousands of people who completed the other parts on the God Hard difficulty, but not that final. So it was kind of like a very small group of people who even completed the game. So it definitely shows. I mean, there wasn't really much of any videos back then of God Hard mode being completed. But then again, I didn't have capture capabilities either back then when I beat it. But even now, I don't think there's any God Hard tutorials up, so I thought that I would finally do this. I've been wanting to make a tutorial of this game since 2016 when I got capture capabilities. So yeah, the game does not really start. The first challenging checkpoint doesn't start until right around here. So there really wasn't much else to say. I'm not going to be going over a lot of the basic controls because you probably would have wanted to have beaten normal at least before you try God Hard, to at least be familiar with how the game works. Now, I started on God Hard with no practice on normal this time because, I'm fucking stubborn and I just wanted to get back into the game and do my God Hard run. Though I have beaten the game several times throughout the years, but I'm not, I had to relearn the controls pretty much. I'm not that familiar with the game. I play through a lot of games and this one, all the controls didn't stick in my head, so I had to get it back in my muscle memory again. I will be explaining some of the more detailed mechanics later on, for sure. But for now, my strategy for this was ignore all the enemies here except for the large robots. Those are called Romanovs. They're large mechs. And if you've beaten normal, you've already dealt with them, obviously. But for these Romanovs, the large mechs, you want to take them out first using the laser cannon from a very far distance. Now, if you're playing the Xbox 360 or PS3 version, you do have to download these weapons for $5. I don't know if it's still available on the Xbox Live Store. But if you're playing the remastered version that I'm playing here on Xbox One, it comes with Bayonetta. If you're playing that version, the game already comes default with these weapons. So the anti-armor pistol, the boost machine gun, and the laser cannon will all be already just in the game, implemented naturally. So you'll just find them as regular pickups. So yeah, take out these Romanovs first from a distance. Just use your laser cannon. The smaller enemies with the turrets and everything can't really reach you from over here, and the grenades can't reach you. So do as much damage as you can to these Romanov mechs. That should be your first priority. And then we're going to clean up some of the loose enemies and just take our time. It's a very patient method, but much easier than getting in the mist. This is what I ended up doing. Now, if they get close, this is when it's good to have your shotgun that I was recommending to have. You know, it's optional, but the shotgun is great for taking out these guys when they start getting close. You can really move them back. Now, the way to make them stagger backwards is to shoot them in the head. Direct headshots will stagger them backwards, and it'll give you time to then combo them. You can chain combos and keep shooting them in the head and keep staggering them, and they'll have trouble getting out of it. But you got to land a headshot each time to continually stagger them. So you can do that with blind firing, where you don't aim and you just use the blind fire with no aiming, just fire. You can do it that way. You do aim with blind fire, you just can't do a focused aim. But you can hit them in the head with that. Or you can pop out briefly and just pop a shot on their head. Now, I don't use slow motion a hell of a lot on this first act. The AR mode where you go into slow motion, a lot of times I rely on cover and just taking my time with shots when I can and trying to find opportune spots to hang out and shoot enemies. But sometimes that's not an option. A lot of times you do have to get in the midst of things and fight it out. So you have to be good at reacting and changing your priorities quickly and adapting in the moment. But there's a lot of tricks and techniques that I find to be able to exploit the AI. Like you see, I'm still sitting back here and the grenades can't get to me. Now, I may get shot occasionally by like a sniper or something like that, but for the most part, this is pretty relaxed once you get rid of the Romanovs. Another trick, not really a trick, but if the Romanovs do get past that wall that we were taking cover at in the beginning of this checkpoint, if they're able to push past that wall and go around and they start attacking you, you can go back down the stairs again. And from that point, you can start shooting up at them through the hand railings and taking snipes at them that way. But sometimes they will even come down in that area down below the stairs, and they'll come and they'll get aggressive. And you'll just have to keep moving backward and use the covers and just try to take shots at them and push them back. If you ever need to push them back or stun them, go for a headshot with either the anti-armor pistol or the shotgun. Both will stun them if you shoot them in the head with either weapon. The laser cannon doesn't tend to really stun them, but it will. If you can put it on their head, you'll damage them a lot. But the best way to damage the Romanovs is actually to shoot them in that red glowing part on their back. That does the most damage. But it's hard to hit when they're charging at you. So it's something to keep in mind if you see it available. Shoot at it. You can also kill, in the beginning of this fight, I killed one of the Romanovs nearly instantly because I shot it in such a way, I think it had an explosive backpack with gas tanks on its back, and I think I shot the gas tanks and killed it that way. So when you see that, take advantage of that and try to take them out immediately by taking out that part of their back. You can also do massive damage to some of the later Romanovs that launch missiles from their back by shooting the missile. As they're crouched down, they will launch a missile out of their back. If you shoot it, you will massively damage them, but that's a little later. Now, as you see, I just cleaned up these guys from a distance. There wasn't much to explain there. Once the Romanovs were gone, I stayed back and cleaned out all the regular enemies with the laser cannon. The great thing about the laser cannon is it has unlimited ammo. It doesn't waste any ammo at all. Use a stun grenade and just slide through all these enemies. Use your stun grenade, slide through the enemies, and get back here. Now, initially, I thought maybe I could leave the area. So that's why I was going to the console and fucking around over here. But you can't leave. You have to kill all the enemies. So now that you're back here, you have a very, very opportune spot to snipe out all the enemies very easily with no difficulty. So, as I was saying about the laser cannon, it has infinite ammo. So you can snipe enemies. It has an extremely long range. Now, try to always drag it on their head of the enemies because that kills the soldiers super fast if you melt their heads. You can kind of just hold it as it's firing and just drag it over on their head. You don't even really need to be very fast with getting it on their head, because as you drag it, you can just kind of drag it up there slowly to their head and take them out. You'll get used to it. I'm able to take out enemies very quickly with headshots with that laser weapon. I used it even in close range. But now that may not be a lot of people's preferred style of play. That's just something I like to do when I'm playing. But, you know, as always, this is going to be just a general guide. It'll give you some ideas of some alternative strategies, because I usually find some strange and unusual strategies and exploits when I play games. So to give you an idea of some different things to try, but you may want to watch other videos, try other strategies, and mix your own playstyle in for, you know, best results. Something that, you know, to match your playstyle the best, you want to use everything that goes well with it, you know. Some of the stuff that I do is not going to complement your playstyle, so, you know, just modify it. So yeah, the laser cannon has unlimited ammo because it uses your AR bar, which is the bar you use for your slow motion and your shields. And I'm not going to go too much into that because that's kind of like the basics that you learn when you play through the game on normal. Now, like I said, if you want to, you can unlock God Hard right away like I did. I started on God Hard, but of course I've beaten the game 11 years ago on God Hard. But, you know, didn't remember much of the details. But you can start it on God Hard by rotating I think it's the right analog stick 20 times in either direction. You can unlock God Hard right away. So you can do that if you want. And then if you've never played the game before, it's a really bad idea because then you're not going to be familiar with the controls. But you can do the tutorial, which will give you the basics. I do recommend playing the tutorial to understand how the different mechanics work, the basics. You know, I edited the tutorial out. I actually did the tutorial because I forgot how to play the game. But you know, I recommend doing it if you haven't already. Now, for this part, get on the turret. You can take out this whole mob of enemies right before they can even get out of the spaceship. Then you'll just have this one group to deal with instead of having, you know, twice as many enemies to deal with. And I was able to take them out pretty quick with the turret. Very easy. This is not a challenging part. But yeah, you can wipe most of them out immediately as soon as they're coming out of that transport unit. But yeah, the laser cannon is amazing because of that infinite ammo pretty much. I mean, it's not the most powerful weapon, and it leaves you vulnerable since it drains your shield energy, but once you know how to use it well, you can take your time and get back really far and just snipe shit out. And I also like the anti-armor pistol because it does have limited ammo, but it does decent damage, and it'll headshot a lot of enemies and blow their heads off. So now, this is the first boss. This part is tough. What I did here is a very aggressive method of using laser cannon on his red glowing core in his head and switching the turret immediately, draining that, then switching off again to the laser cannon. I just keep alternating between laser cannon and turret very quickly, as you notice. And you want to use your rolls to get to the turret and stuff, because the rolls give you invincibility frames, which is something I was going to explain a little later. But it's, you know, now once you take out this red core on his head, you've defeated the first form. You can do it very fast if you use that method that I just used. That's the way I ended up liking to do it. Now, whenever he does this shit, just hold down the roll button and just keep rolling. Make sure you don't roll against the wall. Just keep rolling left and right, you know, any direction. But you don't really want to roll up against the wall where the missiles can kind of just all group into you. But just, you know, all you do is hold down roll. You'll keep rolling, and it'll give you enough invincibility frames not to get hit by that at all, as long as you're continually rolling. Now, for this, you want to start taking off his arms. So just use the turret and take out whatever arms you can. I like taking out this closer one first. Once you take off an arm, it leaves him vulnerable. His red spot will come up again. That's his weakness that you have to hit. Use the turret to continue damaging that red spot. Get some decent damage. Now he's going to kneel down further with some electric fields. Try to get in and use your laser cannon. Dodge as you need to for the electricity. But if your laser cannon is out, then switch quickly to the heavy machine gun and use that. I have the heavy machine gun, actually. I picked it up because it is useful sometimes, but I didn't use it much for this fight. Mostly use the laser cannon and the turrets until the turrets were destroyed. Eventually the turrets do get destroyed, or they run out of ammo. But yeah, now destroy the other arm. Just be aware of his various attacks and keep rolling. Now see, this large attack will kill you instantly, so just get away from it. Now I was shooting him in the chest while he did that, and it doesn't do any damage, so don't bother doing that. So when you get a chance, focus on taking out his other arm. You just need to learn how to dodge his attacks so you can stay alive, obviously. Mostly rolling will get you through most of his attacks, like constantly rolling away from wherever his attacks are, because he has only a few attacks. But they can be very dangerous. So yeah, take out this other arm. When he does the sweeping laser, just keep rolling out of the way. You can roll through it as well. You can also use the walls for some of his laser attacks so that the laser can't reach you. It gets, the wall will block it off. Now you have a little quick time event where you have to rotate the analog stick to shove the missile back in. I think you can fail this and it doesn't really matter too much. But maybe you need to do it to destroy his arm fully. I'm not sure. I have failed it before because when I first got to it, I forgot that you had to rotate the analogs. But yeah, same thing here. See, the shotgun doesn't really do shit on this core, so it's kind of useless here. So I ended up not using it for this boss. I like the laser cannon better. Now, all that's really left to take out is his head, now that both arms are destroyed. So just keep rolling. When he does that, you want to constantly roll when he does that missile swarm attack. Things get very intense here, and I almost fucked it up. You die very fast on this mode. I, of course, can't use my laser cannon when my my AR bar is drained, my shield bar. So my only option here would be to try to take heavy machine gun shots at him, but if I get hit, I would just be dead. So I'm just trying to recover my my full shields back again before I start fighting him again. So if you get in trouble like that and the screen's flashing red, just roll around until you get all your shields back. Because if you try to get greedy and take shots at him too soon, you'll just die very fast without your shields. Now, as of the recording of this commentary, I haven't defeated the last bosses again for the second time. I'm actually on the second act now as I record this video, but I'm considering a few different strategies this time instead of being super stubborn. I did a crazy method on the final bosses when I first beat it. It was an insane method that was super dangerous. It involved a combo of melee attack, rocket, and stun grenade. It was actually stun grenade, melee attack, and then 2 rockets. But whenever I did that on one of the bogeys, one of the final bosses, it would leave me extremely vulnerable with no shields, pretty much resulting in instant death if even a pellet touched me. And the bosses are swarming you from multiple angles. So, yeah, very risky technique. I did eventually manage to grind it out and pull it off, but it probably took me a lot longer than it may have taken if I tried some different strategies. I was very stubborn with that method. But I can't say yet what strategy I'm going to end up using in this tutorial when I do complete it again. It'll be interesting to see. Also, my friend the Ripper 999 beat this game back then too, along with me when we were both playing around the same time. And he's actually recording footage of it now too. He's actually playing through God Hard a second time, or actually a third time because he did it twice. He did it once, recently. And now he's doing it again because he wanted to refine it. But he also beat it once in the past. So I guess this is his third time playing through it. And he may put up a tutorial for his tactics as well. So it'll be interesting. There should be, at least my tutorial will be up. And his may be up as well. So there'll at least be a few playthroughs that have commentary on them. So yeah. After you defeat this, there's going to be some parts that are not going to be too hard. The game only has a handful of extreme parts, luckily. It's a very bizarre pacing with the difficulty. There's only a handful of extreme parts. The ones that come to mind are what I call the hill, where you have to climb up a hill, and it's infinitely respawning enemies. That's extremely difficult. But you can use stun grenades to try to bypass all the enemies, but it's still extremely, extremely difficult. So there's that. Then there's a scene with 3 drill bots, I believe, and snipers on a hill. They're up at the top of an area. Very hard to reach. That's an insanely difficult part. Very, very hard. Maybe I shouldn't say insanely difficult, but it's pretty brutal. I guess the part that's insanely difficult is the final bosses. Like I said, that's way harder than anything else you've encountered in the game. And it's one of the hardest parts I've ever beaten in a game, period. And I've done... I did some pretty high scoring with Ninja Gaiden Black with Master Ninja on the mission mode. The second Alma fight on Master Ninja with no healing was probably in that range of difficulty. This might even be harder than that. It's extreme. So keep that in mind. Don't be surprised when you get to the last boss and you feel like you can't do anything. It can totally kill your run. It's going to take a lot more patience and persistence and a lot more skill than it's going to require to just beat the regular parts of the game on this mode. So, beating some of the harder parts in this mode is definitely something that takes some skill for sure. But, beating those two bosses is what's going to be separating, it's going to separate your skill level from, and your patience. It's definitely going to test it. So here I used the laser cannon to take out a lot of these enemies as I was approaching. I wasn't playing very, I was playing more aggressively because this part's not hard for me. Because I can kind of just melt their heads off as I'm moving forward. I also kind of, memorized the spawns because I died several times, so I memorized where some of the enemies were going to spawn at. So it didn't take me too long to get this part down. And then the Romanov, it's just only one Romanov, and you can take him out from a distance. Just take your time. Occasionally you're going to get hit by a missile like that, and then just take cover by one of the walls, You have various areas where you could kind of hang out in the back and shoot at him. You don't have to go to this particular area, but he's not going to get to you if you hang out over here and just shoot at him. You can refill some heavy machine gun ammo if you happen to grab that weapon for the boss fight. You really didn't need it for the first boss, but I ended up grabbing it. I don't have my anti-armor pistol, which I would have rather had that than the heavy machine gun for later parts. So, if you still have that, then that's good to have. Because it doesn't appear that often as a pickup. Some of the weapons don't appear that often, even though it's somewhat random on some of the chests. With the weapon pickups, some of them don't appear too often, like the anti-armor pistol. I don't find too often. So, you don't always want to trade out some of those downloadable weapons like the laser cannon, the anti-armor pistol. Certain weapons you don't really want to swap out because, you may think you're going to get the anti-armor pistol back in the next area, but you won't. So, you want to be careful sometimes with switching out weapons that you really like. But it's okay. I mean, the heavy machine gun is decent enough. I can do most of the, I can do most everything with the laser cannon. It's not really intended for that. It's more of a sniper weapon, but once you get used to it, you can use it at close range. It's dangerous because if your armor gets depleted, you can't fire it. You got to be very careful with it. But what I like to do with the laser cannon is I constantly tap the fire button while aiming it, and what that does is that spins the barrel. And by spinning the barrel, you make it so that you'll be able to fire quickly when you're ready to hold it down and fire it. It's kind of like a way to buffer it so that you can fire faster with it. Because otherwise, if you just try to fire real quick with it, it takes a little while to build up the laser. So if you keep hitting the fire button while aiming, you're going to spin the barrel and it's going to be ready sooner to fire. So you'll see me rotating the barrel a lot. And by doing that, you can use it as a close-range weapon. It melts heads. It really fucks shit up. You can kind of just drag it over the heads of the enemies and pop their heads. Small enemies, of course, not like huge enemies. With those, you really want to get farther back. It's not super powerful, but it is if it gets on their heads of the small enemies. It will kill them, very fucking fast. See, I drag it on their heads here once I get a moment to recover. Now, I use the stun grenade here, but didn't get a chance to capitalize on it much. Now, you can freely waste all your stun grenades and hand grenades and all your ammo because whenever you die and respawn, you get all your stuff back. So if you get to the next checkpoint and die, you're going to get all your ammo refilled, all your grenades, your weapons. And as I said, whatever weapons that you collect on the field, if you collect a weapon and die, it's still going to be equipped. And it's still going to be in your inventory. So, so you can kind of just make weapon runs sometimes if you want to commit suicide, grab the weapons you want, and then, you can do the checkpoint over with the appropriate weapons. It's something I do a lot. So some of my deaths sometimes will be from committing suicide. Now, the death count on this first phase is not completely accurate because I died for another hour and a half. That's not part of this tutorial. What happened was I played this for an hour and a half, and I got to that first hard checkpoint that I mentioned, that first open battlefield part. Realized how useful the laser cannon was because I was running out of ammo with the regular weapons. Died a lot on that part. And then my friend the Ripper was telling me about how useful the laser cannon was. I had forgotten how much I had used it back then because it's been 11 years. So then I said, you know what, I'll restart the game and get the laser cannon and bring it there. So I brought the laser cannon there. And then once I did that, I was progressing way, way faster. So If you are playing on the Xbox 360 or PS3 version without the downloadable content and you don't want to pay $5 for that, for those weapons, you just want to use the base weapons, this video is not going to be nearly as useful for you, because I'm going to be utilizing those weapons a lot since they're available. So, you will have to modify some of your strategies. Now, once you've rescued those three people from those little torture chambers or whatever they're on, enemies will come out of the door, and all you got to do then is you'll get a checkpoint, so you can fuck it up and redo it and redo the escape sequence. It's not much of a penalty. But you want to use the stun grenade and just slide through them and go through the door. You can skip all those enemies. I try to do that whenever I'm aware of being able to skip anything. So I will try to utilize that, because on God Hard, the less you can fight, the better. If you can skip shit, it will benefit you if you're just trying to beat it. So this is a very, very easy part. Like I was saying with this game, there's a lot of parts that are pretty standard, pretty painless. Once you get into the flow of the game and basic, get decent at the mechanics. You can go through, you can cruise through the game pretty painlessly until you get to certain points. Not like completely painlessly, but for these kind of extreme settings, some of these parts really aren't that bad. At least in my opinion. I mean, that's just what I found. I remember when I beat this, I cruised through a lot of the game relatively easily. But then there was just those handful of parts that were extremely difficult. Took, I don't even know how many tries, maybe a few hours for some of those parts each. And of course then the final part, I don't even know how many hours that took days. So I didn't keep track of any of that. But, I would estimate 10 to 20 hours, just a rough estimate. That would be my estimate. I mean, that's what I was thinking back then when I beat it, but like I said, I didn't document it or keep track of it. It was a hell of a fucking relief when I did finally push through. And that's what's going to make this game one of the hardest games on my channel, as far as tutorial, that I've done or playthroughs that I've done, because of those final bosses. It's really, without that, it wouldn't have stood out, that much from something like, Call of Duty 2 on Veteran or something like that, which may even be overall. That's probably even overall harder than this, but this is much harder than Call of Duty 2 Veteran, only because of the final boss. That one checkpoint, there's no way around it. There's no shortcuts. You have to just get fucking good at the game. There's really not much you can do. You can't really exploit anything that I know of. You really just have to get good at it and be able to execute it, quickly. So you really can't get by on any kind of luck or exploits. And I mean, there's definitely other parts like that in the game where, you do have to be good, but you can have, you can have a good strategy that makes things a lot easier on a lot of parts in this game. Even the hardest parts, there's definitely strategies you can use to make it very doable. Finding those strategies is sometimes tough, and it's not always easy to execute them, but, there is at least some solid strategies for those parts, which I'm sure I'm going to be detailing once I play some of those harder parts again. I'm still on the second act as I'm making this tutorial. I'm not going to have any ending sequences on these tutorials as far as thanks for watching and all that shit, because what's going to happen is after I beat this, I'm going to combine all these tutorials into a single playthrough video. So to make the transitions less awkward, I'm just going to record them, with no little final parts like thanks for watching or any of that shit. I'm just going to keep it going, and it's just going to end abruptly, but this will cover the first act, and then the next video will be the whole second act, etc. I'm not going to put out a video until I've completed an entire act. So this is going to be a 5-part tutorial series, and then the only difference is I'm going to combine all 5 parts into a single video, and I'll post that up as well. I'm also going to post up the parts without commentary. I'll post that up in a single video as well without commentary, so you can just hear the sounds of the game. Now, obviously, for this playthrough, I've edited out all the deaths. But you're still going to see death counters and shit like that at the end. So that's going to be pretty accurate, aside from this level. This level, the death counter is going to be, I think it said 73 deaths for this level. Now, that's true on my second, after I reset, I only died maybe 73 times, I believe. But remember, I died for an extra hour and a half, and that didn't get included here because I restarted the game to get the laser cannon. I decided that it would make my life a lot fucking easier to just pick that up, early on. That's why I recommended in the beginning of this video, get that laser cannon. everything I recommend is for a very, very good reason. So, I'd recommend, whatever type of things that I recommend for strategies, I'd recommend following it. If you're trying to follow my methods, then, definitely, pick up those weapons, and, all the little things that I mentioned are for a reason. Some of it seems insignificant, but it can make things a lot smoother later on. So yeah, see, once these Romanovs get here, I have a very tense fight with this guy. But I was able to get him into a stun lock by using a stun grenade and then repeatedly headshotting him. As long as you land a headshot each time, you cannot get out of the stun. You just have to land it with the shotgun each time. Now in God Hard mode, there are no weapon upgrades. See, on normal, you can upgrade your weapons by using them, and I think they get more powerful or various bonuses. But in God Hard mode, your weapons are just default and they don't upgrade, so you don't have to worry about any of that. That's totally stripped out. Now, most of the cutscenes I either cut out completely or I just show them briefly just to show where the transitions are. Because, if you're watching a tutorial, you're gonna kind of base where you're at on where the cutscene transitions are. A lot of times when you're watching a video, you're going to look for that cutscene to see where it ends and where the next transition begins, to give you an idea of where, a lot of stuff looks similar sometimes, so, it gives you an idea when you're scanning through. I think it makes it helpful. Now, for this part, you can kind of sit back yet again. There's not going to be any enemies that are going to be able to aggress your position. These are all easy-ass enemies. Now, if you get close, the turrets will tear you up, but why would you get close when you have the laser cannon? Just take your time by this wall here. Take everything out, and you can move forward at your own pace. You don't have to rush it. There's no timer, so you can utilize that. Yeah, it's fucking nice to finally be doing a tutorial on this game and getting it started. I got a long way to go. Like I said, there's still some extreme parts, and that final boss may take me a very long time to beat. Depends how aggressive I am. I'm playing Gears Tactics on the Xbox Series X and Yakuza Like a Dragon, some other games. I've been kind of just taking my time with this. So some days I may play this for, 30 minutes. I may play it for a few hours. It just varies. I'm trying to play it pretty consistently. I did miss a day yesterday, but I'm trying to play it pretty consistently, so I'm going to keep working on it, so it will get beaten eventually. The last boss is the part that's probably going to take me the longest. I'm not even sure what strategy I'm going to use this time. I may switch it up. I'm thinking of using a shotgun strategy this time, combined with my old strategy, my old stun combo strategy, which is really fucking risky. So yeah, for this part, what you want to do is run up forward to spawn this tank to come out. As soon as the tank arrives, you're going to see a little cutscene. The tank will come out with a bunch of enemies. So all you got to do then is just use your boost mode to just zap back to the beginning of the level, basically. Not the beginning, but where this turret is. Go back to this wall where this turret is, and the tank is going to have a very hard time maneuvering through all this boxes and such. It can get back here, but it's not going to be easy for it to get back here. So it's going to get stuck on shit. So I use that to exploit this part. Now, what I did was very tedious and slow. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in a big rush, you're not going to want to use my method. You're going to probably want to do something more aggressive. But, I'm a very exploitative player. I try to exploit shit whenever I can. So I'm always looking for weaknesses in the enemy AI and shit I can exploit. So you're going to see a lot of that kind of shit in my video where it's applicable. Now, if it's not something that I can feasibly do, or if it's really ridiculous to try to exploit, then I may get more aggressive. I kind of adapt to the situation, but I'll start off trying to exploit shit usually. Unless the part is just easy and I don't have to, I can just, get through it relatively painlessly and just be aggressive, then I'll just do that. But if this is a hard part, without exploiting, it's tough. So all you got to do here is shoot the back of the tank. So if you're patient and you use your laser cannon, you can just pop out for a little while and shoot it. Now, when your armor gets low and the screen's flashing, get back into cover, or you'll just instantly die. You will die very fast. But you get used to doing that. If you've been playing this game on this mode, or in general, you know that if you stay out of cover for even a split second when your health is low, there's a good chance that you're just going to die. So that's nothing new. So you should be used to doing pop shots by this point. There's a lot of that in this game. So just pop out when you have a chance and take your time. Don't get greedy with it and try to get extra shots in. Wait till his ass is facing you and you got that nice red fucking thing to shoot at, and just unleash on it. Throw your grenades. You can throw your stun grenades, all your shit at it. because you're going to get a refill after this anyway, because after this is a checkpoint. So you can waste all your shit up, whatever guns you want to use on it. But I like using the laser cannon because eventually it gets it down. It just takes a long time. You see, this is another minute left on this, so it does take a while. It's not that long, though. Now you're going to see on the real first boss of this level, it's just a single bogey. See, the final boss is 2 bogeys. They're called bogeys, but they're flying guys. So you're going to see with the single bogey, the actual first boss of this act, I do a very, very tedious method. I really didn't. I was actually kind of fucking myself over. I probably should have learned how to fight him better when there's just a single bogey, because later on I'm gonna have to deal with 2 at the same time again for the final bosses. So I probably should have practiced more on that. But the good thing about this game is you can always select checkpoints if you want to practice and go back to specific sections in the mission select menu. The game is great like that. So. But you're going to see a very tedious method on the first boss of this act, and you may not even want to play like that. But and one, on the positive side, it's good for my method is going to be good for less skilled players for sure, because it really didn't require a lot of skill what I ended up doing on that boss. It's basically just playing it super carefully. Unfortunately, trying to, if you rely on stuff that doesn't take a lot of skill, you end up getting fucked in the end when you actually need to pull it out. But you can always adapt as needed and change it up. You know what I mean? When you have to grind it out, then it makes you a better player anyway. So either way, it works out. Like I said, just expect a hell of a lot of resistance at the very end of the game. But yeah, it's going to be, as I said, there's going to be another tedious part with the actual boss of this stage, the way I play it. But there's still a few more parts before you get to the end of this act. This first act can be tougher than some of the other acts just because you don't seem to get... especially if you're using the regular weapons, you really don't get a lot of ammo. Sometimes it feels like. It just seems like this... maybe it's also because I haven't played in so long and I was adjusting to the mechanics of the game again. I had to get a feel for the way the game plays. It's actually... I was saying it's been 11 years, but I think it's been more like 9, maybe almost 10 years. Because I think it was in 2011, maybe in the middle of 2011 that I beat this on Godheart. So, not quite 11 years, maybe 9. Still long enough for me not to really remember how to play well. So yeah, these parts are a little slow and tedious. I edited out some of the little bullshit with the, talking on the cell phone kind of bullshit, walking simulator type of shit. I consider those like cutscenes too, so I edited those down. I do show them a little bit just to show the transition. Gives an idea of where in the level, I'm at. So yeah, for this first part, you're going to want to take out these fucking jellyfish. They're very slow, but if they reach the armored vehicle, they will do massive damage to the vehicle. You're trying to protect the vehicle here, so it's okay if you let one of them survive. Just make sure you kill at least one of them, because the ship can take a single attack from the jellyfish isn't going to be a big deal. So if you're not able to kill the second one, don't worry about it. It's not going to really matter. Try to kill some of the crawling spiders on the ground, the small spiders, because they'll attack you. But you see, I fucked up here and the armored vehicle took a hit, but it didn't really matter too much. There's going to be another part where you have to be more aggressive with taking out those enemies, otherwise the armored vehicle will easily get destroyed, but that's going to be after this segment. For this segment, the idea that I used was basically to use stun grenades and just rush to the objectives and try to skip as many enemies as I could. Unfortunately, once you get to the top, you do have to dodge a lot of shit. But yeah, here comes another one of these jellyfish, actually. This is not the part I was talking about. I guess there's another little wave of jellyfish, as they call them. Try to take out what you can with these. And like I said, you can take a few hits to the armored vehicle and it'll survive. But, try to take out most of them. The big enemies are going to be the main focus The small ones, they're not that aggressive with attacking you. They kind of just run past you. But the large enemies will, do the damage to the armored vehicle. You see, I got hit by another one. So yeah, I had 2 jellyfish hit the vehicle, and I mean, it doesn't really matter too much. You could probably let all the jellyfish hit the vehicle. I mean, there's only, 3 of them, so you'd probably still live. Very easy part. So now is where I use a very aggressive method of trying to skip all the enemies, but I do end up having to kill them anyway. But what I do here is I slide to the ladder, and as long as you're hitting X while you're sliding, you're going to jump on the ladder immediately. So buffer that, just mash X while you're sliding. And make sure you're aimed at the ladder, obviously, because you got to get the prompt for it to work. And then all you got to do is go to where the bomb icon shows up here and press X on that, and you may have to rotate the analog stick or something that it wants you to do, but as long as you take out the enemy up on this top floor before you do the little bomb sequence, you won't have anything killing you. But now when these ships come in, they're going to shoot directly down on you. It's very dangerous. And what I did for this part is I just continuously roll. And I tend to just barely survive by just holding down the roll button and just rolling around, left to right. Just keep rolling left to right by holding down roll. You get a lot of invincibility frames, and it makes it so that you can just survive. I mean, a few bullets still seem to get through, but it doesn't seem to finish you off, most of the time. So yeah, now another ship comes. A lot of these ships keep coming and shooting down up on top of you. So whenever that happens, just keep rolling. And what you want to do is try to clear out this bottom floor. Try to kill all the robots on the bottom floor before you go back down. Because otherwise it's dangerous to try to place the second bomb with all that shit going on. But eventually you can come down and if you see an enemy that's still around that you weren't able to hit, then just finish it off, kill it. And now I roll into this corner for a little bit of safety to recharge. Otherwise I probably wouldn't have survived. So yeah, now all you got to do is just plant this bomb. This is the last bomb. Make sure you roll a decent distance away from the bomb and then click in L3 and R3 at the same time, and that'll detonate the bomb. But if you're too close, you'll kill yourself, so just be aware of that. I actually did that. I was kind of greedy with detonating. So yeah, now you have another armored vehicle protection sequence. And it's pretty much, it's going to be the same type of thing, but it's a lot more aggressive. There's a lot more enemies now to deal with, so try to be as aggressive as you can at taking out the large jellyfish. Those are going to be your main priorities, because those are the things that are going to latch onto your armored vehicle and destroy it. So use all your grenades. Use all your stun grenades, your regular grenades. Use the laser cannon carefully. Make sure you don't, overfire it to where you do that and you overheat it like I just did, because that wastes a lot of time. Now I had to use my heavy machine gun to make up for that loss of time, because you can't use the laser cannon when you overheat, obviously. You have to wait for it to come back. And you see I was being kind of sloppy with it, but I should have used it to the point where it didn't overheat, because that wastes a lot of extra time. Shoot the tank on the back of that Romanov, because when you blow up that tank you'll kill it. It's a lot faster than trying to drain its health from the front or from its head. So make sure you shoot it in the back. And when your laser cannon either overheats or you have to wait to charge it back up, use your heavy machine gun to, or if you have the anti-armor pistol. But either way, one of them did end up getting on the ship, but I mean it's not really a big deal at this point if one of them gets through. I mean, I'm sure you could probably take 2 or 3 hits from those things and still, survive. But I'm guessing you probably have to clear out at least some of them. So just try to take out as many as you can. You'll probably beat it on your first try. It's easy. So yeah, now coming up is going to be a sequence with a lot of enemies, but you can pretty much pull major bullshit for most of the fight. So I got that mapped out pretty well. I can break that down pretty well. Again, this is why we're using the laser cannon so heavily. Like, I really recommend this weapon. Now, the laser cannon is pretty much useless in the handful of hardest parts of the game, where there's like maybe 3 or 4 of the hardest parts in the game. It's pretty much useless. It's too slow. But for a good bulk of the game, the laser cannon is going to pull a lot of bullshit. First, take out those 2 snipers, or the ones wearing the green armor. Take them out immediately, because they will pretty much one-hit kill you. I think they kill you in 1 hit. It goes through your armor and through your life. So take them out first. Then leave the red robots alone. Don't worry about them. They're not going to be much of a threat. It's mainly those 2 green snipers you want to take out immediately. Then all you got to worry about is these 3 Romanovs in the distance, the big mechs. Now for these guys, they all squat down and shoot these huge missiles out of their back at certain points. When they do that, if you time it right, you can shoot the missile just as it's coming out of their back, and it will kill them or do massive damage to them, one or the other. But you can wipe them out much faster by doing that. So what you want to do is shoot your laser on the barrel of their cannon when they're squatted down, and you have a good chance that it'll just detonate when the missile peeks out. It'll just detonate them. So just keep that in mind. You can use slow motion to try to line that up better if you want. I didn't use slow motion much at all. I didn't find it too useful with the laser cannon, because see, with the laser cannon, it drains that AR bar when you're using slow motion. So it means you can't fire the laser cannon as much. So because I'm a heavy laser cannon user up until this point of the game, I don't use slow motion almost ever. Very rarely. But like I said, a lot of people are going to want to use it. It just depends on your play style. Now, if you're using regular weapons to take out these robots, it's going to be much different, because the assault rifles and heavy machine gun are going to have a hard time doing much from this distance. The anti-armor pistol can do some decent damage to them, but you only have like 20 shots in that. So, at most you're going to maybe take out one of the Romanovs with that. Unless you shoot the missiles that come out. Maybe you can do that. But, so once you take out these 3 Romanovs, you just take your time. You're safe at this barrier. As long as you're not standing up when a missile comes, you're pretty much safe. You may take the occasional bullet, but just get back down into cover and take your time. And once you take out this final Romanov, all you're going to do is clean up the remaining red robots. Very easy once the Romanovs are gone. Just take them out. You can melt their heads very quickly, even from a very far distance with this gun. Now the next part's going to be tricky. There's still no checkpoint in this section, so it's very easy to die in this next part. But I have a pretty good strategy for this next part. It makes it a lot easier. You're going to be able to take out most of the enemies with a grenade. So all you're going to do now is get in cover directly in front of this transport unit, right where this asshole is blocking my way. You're going to sit here, and you're going to wait for this little cinematic event to occur with this transport vehicle. As soon as you see the door open, you're going to fire a stun grenade in there and stun everybody, and then followed up by a hand grenade. Or if you want, you can melt them all with the laser like that. See, I didn't even need to use a hand grenade. I just used the laser cannon. You can do it either way. But now after you do that, use the rest of your stun grenades and hand grenades to wear out this Romanov as much as you can as he's approaching you. But when he gets close, I recommend just getting out of there unless you want to do the shotgun stun method, where just keep shotgun stunning him if you want. But if you want to be safe, do all that initial damage, and when he gets close, just haul ass, go back to this wall that we were using for cover. Now, this wall is not going to be completely safe anymore, because the Romanov will eventually go around it. Well, he can. He doesn't always go around it. You'd probably be able to kill him before he does. But if he does get around it, you're going to have to resort to that shotgun stun method, most likely, of just shotgunning and stunning him, by shotgunning him in the head. But that's about it. Now, I think I missed a rocket launcher. I think inside this transport vehicle was a rocket launcher. Since I didn't go in there, I never got it. So I kind of fucked myself. So I recommend actually getting rid of the shotgun now and picking up the rocket launcher, going in that transport vehicle and picking up the rocket launcher. Now, I'm not 100% sure that the rocket launcher is in there, but my good friend the Ripper beat this recently, and he said that he believed it was in this vehicle, I believe. So, because he had it for the first boss, so it is in this level, that's for sure. But I missed it, so I'm not going to be able to show using that in this tutorial. But there's an anti-armor pistol here, so if you've been missing that, pick that up. The boost machine gun I haven't fucked with yet in this playthrough. It's stronger than the heavy machine gun, but it runs out of ammo much faster. So I'm not sure of the usefulness of it yet. I may experiment with it later. I may have used it my first time through God Hard mode many years ago, but can't remember. But I know I abused the laser cannon back then, and I'm definitely going to be abusing it this time. So yeah, my method is going to be even longer drawn out for the first boss since I don't have the rocket launcher. I'm going to do a very tedious method, but I think it's going to be something that anyone can do if they're patient. It's not really too skill-based. Unlike with certain parts like the final boss, without the skill, you're pretty much fucked. So you're going to just have to get better and learn the game. It will force you to become a better player for sure. But when you're just dealing with a single bogey, there's a lot more room for, fucking around and pulling bullshit. So yeah, take out these guys as soon as they come up on this elevator. Just a small wave of enemies, very easy. The laser cannon really melts them if you drag it over their head, so just do that. But I mean, you could easily use an anti-armor pistol or just about anything. So yeah, let's see what's coming up next. I don't remember exactly what's next. I don't know if it's the boss. I think there is some more combat before the boss, but not 100% sure. Maybe not. This may be the boss. Oh yeah, no, there's a few more enemies. There's a few more waves of enemies, I think, but it's easy. Just same shit as before. You're just going to take cover, either on one of these barricades, or the best way is to take cover at this wall right here and just peek out of the corner. You can just kind of you can damage the Romanov so much that, he's probably not going to get to you. Actually, now there's a cutscene that triggers. I think it triggers when you kill a certain amount of guys. So, but yeah, you may still want to take out the Romanov. You may need to kill him to get the next cutscene. But yeah, there's really no reason that he would get over to you, really, because that wall, you have plenty of time to take him out. You can just take your time, occasionally dodge if a grenade gets through, or you get hit, get your health back. Rolling really gives you a lot of invincibility frames. I mean, you can't just roll endlessly and dodge everything, but you can spam it a lot of times. And you don't have to keep tapping roll. You can just hold down A and you'll continuously roll. Something to keep in mind. There are some more advanced movement techniques and things like that I may have to get into later for the final bosses. There's a way to move across the map much faster by alternating boost with rolling. I would have to learn how to do that again, though, because I actually forgot how I used to do that. I remember it was something that I learned, and it seemed to give me an advantage on that fight, but I don't know if I'll end up using it again. Depends what strategy I end up using for the final bosses. So now is the first real boss of the level. This is the first main boss of the level. At the end of the game, you're going to be fighting two of these at the same time, and there's going to be walls that keep going up and down, so your cover is not going to be available all the time, and it's going to be a fucking bitch. But for now, you're just dealing with one bogey. So, you see, one of them is already hard enough to deal with, but dealing with two of them at the same time is a nightmare. But anyway, to start off, we're going to be wasting up our stun grenades and just taking some shots at them. Maybe with the shotgun. But after doing that for a little while, I just go all the way in this back area, and this is where I pull major bullshit. I take a very defensive strategy back here. And it's going to be very tedious, and it takes very long. You see, it takes like 9 minutes just for me to beat this guy. But it is an option if you're having trouble. I probably should have learned it better, but this is what I ended up doing. So yeah, I recommend grabbing the sniper rifle because we're going to end up going all the way back here for this strategy, and the sniper rifle is at least decent because you can get some decent shots in from all the way back. Before using the laser cannon, of course, but for now, the sniper rifle is a good way to get some initial damage in. Now, if you grab the rocket that I mentioned grabbing, you could have actually gotten 3 rockets in on him by using 3 stun grenades, and then every time you use a stun grenade, and you get him down on his knees, with the stun grenade, you use a rocket. You lock on the rocket and fire it. And you can get maybe 2 rockets in when you do that. From what I remember, I think you can get 2 rockets in before he fully recovers. But you'll get in at least 1 rocket each time, probably 2. So you can waste up your rockets very easily on him that way and do a lot of starting damage. But I'm not going to be showing that because I didn't have the rocket launcher. I should have thought about that. I forgot that it was available. So yeah, the way I got the sniper rifle is there's a chest, a weapon chest right near where you spawn and start the checkpoint. It's to your right. And there's another one all the way in the back of the room. So what you do is you grab those weapon chests until you get the weapon you want. So you'll open the weapon chest. You may not see the weapon you want, so commit suicide. Eventually you'll get the weapon that you want. But you're not going to find a rocket launcher in there, but you can find just about anything else. I like the sniper rifle as my secondary weapon for this strategy, so I could stay all the way back. And now if you want to get the weapon chest at the far end of the room, you're going to probably want to use a stun grenade and try to jet through so that the boss is stunned and you can get through to the end and grab that chest. But either way, once you get the sniper rifle, it's a good weapon to have. So once I exhaust the sniper rifle back here, what I do is I use the laser cannon whenever I can to try to drain his health. But when he gets close, I use a shotgun strategy of rolling away and trying to shotgun him to stun him. That's like my self-defense strategy. When he gets in real close, I switch to my shotgun. And I didn't pull it off too well there, but I've had some better runs with that fight. But see, I use that center pillar right there. It spreads out his grenades. And that way I can kind of stay in the middle where the grenades part. And stay in that middle part and I don't take damage from the grenades. So I'm just using this cover right now. And what I try to do is I just roll back from him when he tries to attack me. And I just dodge him and I use the shotgun defensively when I can to stun him until he just leaves this area. Eventually, he'll get tired of fucking around with you and he'll go back and start all the way, firing at you in the distance and firing at your teammates and shit. So he doesn't have a long attention span when it comes to attacking you up close. So that's one way to exploit him. All you have to do is defend yourself for a little while and survive. Now, it can still get kind of intense because it's a long fight and you can easily fuck up in those close-range sequences. But it's a lot easier than trying to go out in the midst of everything and fighting him, while he's doing all this crazy-ass shit up close. So, yes, I basically just hang back here and recover, and I try to take shots when I can. It's a very slow process, but it works. You don't have to drain all of his health to defeat him. You only have to get it down to maybe where the letters in his name are, or somewhere around there, and you'll enter a QuickTime sequence. You just got to mash the buttons, and that's about it. But you see, I'm using a shotgun in a defensive way and rolling back when he gets close. Eventually, he gets bored and he'll just leave. It's kind of random whether he wants to be more aggressive with you and keep pursuing you. See, now he's coming back, but a lot of times he will get bored and just leave. But do what you can. Get those shotgun hits in. If you have any stun grenades left, use those. But it's basically just going to be a game of patience because the laser cannon has infinite ammo. But if your armor is depleted, you can't fire it. So it does have limitations, and of course it drains your armor. So you can't boost as much if you're a heavy laser cannon user. You're not going to be able to boost around the map as much because that wastes AR as well. So there are limitations to relying on the laser cannon for a lot of parts. And it's not going to work on the hardest parts in the game. The hardest parts will require, different weapons. I don't think I'm going to be able to use this too much on some of the hardest parts. But there's only a handful of those parts, like I said. But the final hardest part is extreme with the bosses, the last bosses. So yeah, now just play defensively with the shotgun, obviously. You're going to have to survive when your health gets down if you do get hit. Just try to keep rolling away from wherever he is. And you're trying to rely on those invincibility frames, hoping that a shot doesn't go through. You may have to roll around in circles here around all the different barriers. You can see sometimes he does get more aggressive in this area, and you just have to dodge to the best you can. But if you're patient, it won't be that hard because you only have to do this sometimes when he arrives in here. So yeah, try to wait for when he's shooting at your teammates, and he's not shooting directly at you, and you can get that laser and burn off some of his health. You don't really want to use slow motion while you're using a laser cannon because you're not going to be able to fire as much as your laser cannon since it wastes the AR bar. But yeah, try to melt off some of his health whenever you can. He does get preoccupied with your teammates that are really they're not doing any damage to him, but they do distract him. That's really all your teammates do. He'll attack your teammates, but it just goes on forever. So yeah, try to roll back and use the shotgun defensively. Get some stuns in that way and just dodge shit. Now, see, his health is not even drained that much, and it already goes into the final sequence, so you don't have to get it all down. But it still takes like 9 minutes to use my method. It's a slow fucking method, but it's very exploitative of the AI, which is what I like to do. But yeah, just mash the buttons in that QuickTime event. And that's pretty much it for this level. This act is pretty much finished. You can kill that guy really fast if you are very aggressive with the shotgun, and you're good with that. You don't have to spend 9 minutes on him. But it's tough. He kills you very fast. So it can be very difficult. But of course, it's nothing compared to dealing with two of them at the same time, and they also both have different weapons. One has a sniper rifle, and one has like this other lock-on type of weapon. So it's a very different fight with two of them at the same time. And there's nowhere to hide like there is here. Here you can exploit it and go all the way in the back. You can't do that on the final when you're fighting two of them at the same time. So, if you're having trouble with one, just imagine how much harder it's going to be with two of them at the same time. And very little cover. It's a whole different fight for sure. I'm going to have to, it's definitely going to be some pain with trying to relearn that part. And trying to get through again. So yeah, this level can be kind of tricky because, you're probably relearning the game again. Unless you just beat, if you just beat normal, at least you have a basic idea of the mechanics. But it really doesn't prepare you for the hardest parts in this mode. So yeah, as I'm making this, I still have to finish off the second act, but I should have that up soon. So yeah, I will have all that up pretty soon. I think I'm almost done with the second act, but I still got to deal with that hill, which may be in that act.